Well, hello there and welcome to the kitchen of the dollhouse. So what are we cooking up today, my friends? Well, another reading from The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gary Goldschneider and Hugh Stelfers for March 2nd, the day of Undying Loyalty. That's right. And here at the top of the page is a visual representation of the day of Undying Loyalty. What do we have? Well, we have this an image of boom, two old-timey padlocks, the sort that are unlocked with a key, and they just so happen to be commingled together, if you like. That's right. And does that speak to the day of undying loyalty? Hey, maybe in a metaphorical sense, perhaps. Some days these things are pretty enigmatic, don't seem to really line up. That said, visual representational image aside, I just like folks to kind of know what's going on a page in front of me, so you're part of the paradigm going on off camera. It's not altogether all too important. But what is important around these here parts, that's right, wishing you a happy birthday, okay? So if your birthday is March 2nd, I just want to say happy birthday. But if this video finds you late, I don't know, days, weeks, months, whatever the case may happen to be, I just want to say I hope you had a happy birthday in that circumstance. But for everybody else joining us randomly or more ideally to celebrate, hey, I just want to say hello, welcome, and I hope you enjoy yourself. Now, before I dive in with the redirect, I'd like to take a minute or two to roll some dice. That's right, this is the DykASSt birthday broadcast, so I like to live up to the namesake. But I do so, more importantly, for synchronicity's sake. And here I rolled us a 2 and a 1 for a 3. Now, what is synchronicity, you're probably wondering? Well, my friends, as I've heard it told, the universe or the higher powers that be oftentimes put things in our path to help us manifest our goals, realize our aspirations. But oftentimes we got the blinders on to what's going on around us. We're very narrow or singular focus, getting on with our commute to work or just the errands, what have you. So we're not apt to lend much credence to the things that cross our path. So this is a little bit of an experiment to help you take those blinders off and start recognizing those things for what they are. Now, how do we kind of identify such things? Well, we need some kind of, mutually agreed upon sign between us and the universe, something we hopefully can't mistake. That's right, your daily numbers there. So get yourself a pair of dice and figure that stuff out for yourself. You don't have to go with what I rolled for you, all right? Even though the intention is there. That said, you also want to be able to find out, say, directions to go in. So you ascribe values to number sets and also time limits with which to go in those directions. So it's paramount to get yourself a pair of dice. That said, you decide you want to let the universe take the wheel, do the driving for you. Pick out a place that's maybe near and dear to your heart, or maybe one you haven't explored before, and set out, all right? That said, make sure you get those blinders off like I mentioned and start soaking up everything like a sponge. You never know, the day might start to take on a little bit of a theme, perhaps. Let's take the visual representational image, the padlocks, right? Maybe this first leg of your journey, you just so happen to cross a bridge with like one of them chain link fences on it where the people put the locks there, because they show their undying love, which always lends me to wonder if people come back after one breaks up and take those locks apart. I don't know. It'd be kind of interesting to find out. That said, hey, you know what? I would say that speaks to the theme, all right? Because maybe you start running into locks on the rest of your journey. Yeah, that's right. Maybe the second leg of your journey into your time value, maybe you just find yourself in front of, a little shop there with the little roll top doors, and it just so happens to have a padlock on it. Maybe the address of said such store, boom, maybe it's got a 21 in the address, all right? Again, I'd take that as a sign you're on the right path. But the visual representational image aside, it can be just about anything that starts creeping into your day. So you got to be on the lookout. That said, maybe you get on with your a couple of different legs of this journey. You're not really seeing much of anything. You know what? Just take it in stride. You're getting your steps in at the very least. Maybe you take a moment to compose yourself. You look up and maybe just so happen to notice, boom, you're on 3rd or 21st Street, all right? Yeah, all right? Take that as a sign you're on the right path. Maybe no sooner do you get ready to roll your dice, hey, maybe a bus pulls up, and hey, you know what? Maybe the theme of the day is on an advertisement on the side. Hey, I would take that as a sign that maybe you should try riding that thing, all right? Maybe you just so happen to have perfect change in your pocket to do as much. And maybe you're not the sort who likes to ride the bus, but hey, you know what? Get out of your comfort zone for a moment. Get on the bus, maybe roll your dice, see, find out how long you need to be on here. And no sooner do you roll, your numbers, your 3 and your 1 and your 2, or whatever they may happen to be. And maybe you look up and there just so happens to be somebody who's wearing a shirt that has that number on it. All right? Hey, you know what? I would take that as a sign that that's your little person to follow, if you like, or you depart the bus when they do. All right, that said, sometimes you encounter these things where you're looking for an anomaly because you can't really find anything that stands out. Hey, you know what? There you go. Maybe somebody with a number on their shirt, or they're wearing a hot pink shirt and everybody else is wearing blasé colors. Hey, they're your little white rabbit to follow, if you like, okay? But just give them a buffer, that kind of thing. That said, once maybe they do happen to notice you're following them and they confront you about it, hey, just show them your dice, show them this video, let them know it's your birthday, trying to shake things up, keep things interesting. Maybe they just so happen to tell you it's their birthday too. All right, I often bring that one up because, hey, it's an interesting thing that's not outside the realm of conceivability to occur. And that's it. Maybe they join you on the journey, and if they do, hey, you know what? That's great because as I hear it told, the more people who are focused on the same thing begets greater results. All right, so I think you get the idea. Get out there, see, taste, touch, smell any given number of circumstances, synchronicities, coincidences, and you'll understand why I brought it up. All right, hopefully it blows your hair back, and I'd say that's the perfect way to spend your birthday. All right, let's dive in to your birthday reading. That's why you're here. Your month is March, your day is the 2nd, your sign is 10 to 12 degrees Pisces, of the Pisces I period specifically, and your quality and element is mutable water. Well, all right, March 2nd, the day of undying loyalty. The highly dependable individuals born on March 2 display an unusually strong sense of loyalty, which can manifest in relation to their family, friends, nation, or perhaps a higher cause. And those born on this day tend to hold the object of their passion in the greatest esteem, even to grant it adoration or worship. Rarely, if ever, will they forsake their commitments once they have given themselves fully. But it is precisely their unswerving loyalty that can present problems for March 2 people. It can be pretty uncomfortable at times for others to be the object of such feelings. In fact, care, concern, or devotion can both be a source of great security and inhibition to those involved with them. As parents, those born on this day may experience difficulties with sons or daughters who hold a contrary value system and wish to be free to go their own way. More highly developed March 2 people do not lock others into static roles, but allow for change in family, friends, and those they admire. Their loyalty is not conditional or something to provide themselves with a sense of security, but remains constant through the evolution of people and entities. And many March 2 individuals go through periods where they devote themselves exclusively to their work, particularly if this work is of a creative nature. And they may block out everything else. And this not only isolates them from those uninvolved in their efforts, but can make them one-track personalities. And March 2 people may overlook the fact that remaining open to varying experiences ultimately enriches their work. And March 2 people are often unable or unwilling to disentangle themselves from commitments when they begin going in a bad direction. And though in no such no-win situations, they may still find a way to turn this around. The sacrifice required, however, can be great. On the other hand, should everything ultimately fall apart, those born on this day are likely to move on fresh, perhaps to a completely new area of endeavor. Win or lose, they are secure in the knowledge that they have given their best. And one of the most important challenges for March 2 people is finding a balance between their need to develop more personal, individual goals on the one hand, and their desire to give themselves to more universal causes on the other. Learning to deal with the here and now and to meet personal challenges is the highest first priority for those born on this day. For only when their own house is in order will they be able to give their best to worldly or idealistic endeavors. Well, all right, this is a pretty interesting, fascinating birthday breakdown. A little bit enigmatic insofar as a lot of the dynamics that were going on there. And I say that because I have encountered quite a few birthdays, and a lot of the times the period takes on a little bit of a theme, and a lot of the things kind of go the same way, even though they're realized in completely different respects. And here I would say your birthday breakdown kind of bucks a little bit of those traditions. So again, it still follows a little bit of a theme, but goes about it in a very unique way. That said, it might be burning down everything I have to say about this. I like to provide a little bit of a commentary on the things we just read. Maybe kind of like, I go over the things that we read, like I said, a little redundant in those respects, but sometimes I try to pick out things that are interesting to me and also make connections to other things that may have been happening in the period. So let's dive in with the commentary, is what I'm trying to say. All right. March 2nd, the day of Undying Loyalty. You're said to be highly dependable, and you may also have a strong sense of loyalty that can manifest with people or with a higher cause. And to this end, the reading claims you may hold the object of your chosen passion in a worshipped or idolized position, and it may take forcible removal to peel you away. And it's for this reason the reading claims problems may then present for you, as your obsession might not only cause discomfort, but it might also lend to a kind of inhibition. And I would say probably for yourself as well as the cause or the subject of your concern. And those are issues that I wouldn't have lent much credence myself in approaching the period's concern for higher causes, insofar as how that's concerned writ large. But by and large, the concern has been for how dedication to such things can take someone away from, say, their personal relationships or just their personal life in general. And here the idea of how the subject can be affected into the bargain is broached, which they haven't been doing so much, if at all. All right. So it's a new consideration to that end, is what I'm trying to say. So it's particularly if another person being obsessed over, I would argue. And so that affects both parties concerned for better or for worse. So you kind of have to take a step back and realize what you're doing, perhaps. Maybe that stalker stuff kind of starts to come into the chat room a little bit. Who's to say? I don't know. I think that's just the most obvious thing that people might drill down on. But I'm assuming it's a little bit more, complicated than that. All right, and it'll lend you a little bit of credence in that respect. But it does seem like they're saying you're a stalker. I don't know. But I'm glad they broached this facet of the dynamic for the period here. That said, the reading mentions the capacity not to isolate people into static artifacts, because you might be doing as much. You might see them as something that doesn't evolve, to say. All right. It's said to be a trait that's belonging to the higher evolved on the state, to be able to let them flourish and evolve and still have this dedicated respect for as much, or adoration to them. Their loyalty not conditional or used to provide a sense of security, if you like. Locking down this adoration is an end to itself, almost without locking down the adored, if you like. The whole thing is, quite honestly, a little bit enigmatic for the uninitiated, perhaps, myself included. But hopefully that makes sense to the individuals it applies to. All right. Hopefully it speaks to you writ large. You understand exactly what they're talking about. Or maybe that's the reason they're the higher evolved in that respect there. They've cracked the otherwise encrypted code, if you like. Hopefully, too, there's a realization of living life for one's own concerns, and improvement is also baked into the bargain. Since as it was mentioned, this whole thing can be a bit of an inhibition on you, in being such singular or focused individuals outside of one's own concerns, on somebody else or on a cause. But I would say it could be argued that you may be leaving your humanity on the table to some extent if you have this undaunted pursuit to those ends, all right? Which can be even worse if the no-win situation, or that scenario they mentioned, factors into the equation, all right? Maybe in pursuing this undying loyalty, it just starts to bring you, bad fortunes, if you like, all right? But there must be some kind of semblance of self-awareness if you're able to move on and start fresh in such respects, especially when these no-win situations present. And I would say that you can feel secure in giving your best. And if you can do that, then that's highly unique for this period, because a lot of folks can't move on from such things. And so I would say that singular facet of this particular breakdown, if it does apply to you, makes you wholly unique within this period. Because, like I said, it does not apply to a lot of folks. They dedicate themselves to that cause and they can't pull themselves away, even if it's a losing prospect. So what else do I have to say here? That key facet doesn't apply writ large, like I said, and sometimes such failures break people also, all right? So I would say a balance is required there, and it sounds to me like you have that once you're able to maybe kind of put things into perspective and remove yourself from dedicating so much time or concern for it. But it's pretty much a universal through line in this book to find a balance. It's a huge takeaway, I would say, for today as well. All right, you're said to possess some traits that are very common to this period, but they're realized in very different, unique ways, like I said. Adoration of people specifically is new and possibly the most problematic, I would assume, for the period. But the security of knowing you did your best with a losing proposition is also pretty interesting, I would say. By and large, that's the thing that surprised me the most with the read today. With that in mind, I say it speaks volumes to the advice that they culminate the breakdown with. Deal in the here and now, get your own house in order, and everything is apt to follow from there. All right, so a little bit of a longer birthday breakdown for me, the commentary. Had a little bit of a gnat come into the chat there too. I don't know if you can see it. The thing distracted me for a second. That having been said, hopefully you took something from it. Like I said, this was a little bit of an enigmatic one for me here today, a little bit more difficult for me to kind of provide a commentary for, but hopefully you took some value from it, all right? So that having been said, that's been your breakdown. Let's move on to your numbers and your planets. Let's see if we can get things a little more concise here for you as we dive in with a little bit of astrology and numerology. All right, those born on the 2nd of the month are ruled by the number 2 and the moon. All right, and those ruled by the number 2 often make good co-workers and partners rather than leaders, a quality that can help march two people in their jobs and their relationships. However, moon influences can also act as a brake on individual initiative as well as action, producing frustration, it says. And this is further enhanced by the moon having strongly reflective and passive tendencies, it says in parentheticals. And when moon influences are combined in March 2 people with their Neptunian qualities of Pisces, they can indicate a highly romantic, idealistic individual. However, those born on March 2 must be careful not to allow their mental energy to be diffused or misdirected. And they should be wary of spiritual groups which are overly, salacious. All right, or solicitous. That might be the right word. Solicitous. Salacious. Might be one to watch out for the salacious ones too. That having been said, excuse me, that's been your numbers and your planets. Let's dive into with what I had to say about it. This was a very personalized numbers and planets today. Yeah, they hit all the boilerplate wickets, but they did take some opportunities to personalize it for you. Surprisingly, they put what part did they put in the parentheticals there? The passive and reflective tendencies. That's something that always tends to get brought up, but they never put it in parentheticals. Surprisingly. So that was the first earmark that they personalized this for you. They took a moment to write it in a different way. Does that really matter? No, not necessarily, but I just like to point it out so people can understand if they took some time with you or not. That said, let's dive in, see what I had to say about it. All right, the number 2 in the passive reflective moon for a penchant to make good co-workers and partners versus leaders, all right? Qualities said to help you in your job and your relationship, but can act as a brake with individual initiative. All that's pretty boilerplate for a moon entry day, all right? And I never like trying to synthesize these qualities as the breakdown more often than not conveys qualities of leadership, on these moon days. So it's hard to kind of justify why they're saying you make better partners or coworkers instead of leaders. There's been a day or two where it's very obvious that they're more passive, reflective, and that these qualities apply. But in a lot of other cases, I'm like, really? This person stands out as a leadership type in my mind. So it's hard to savvy as much. But that being said, I suppose if you let people or the cause that's of your passion dictate your actions, a certain subservience or power over your actions could be intuited, even if you're taking the lead in deciding said such actions, all right? All told, that's essentially the moon for you, okay? Its reflective qualities may also be what gives you the ability to feel secure in the lessons that you learn, I would say, especially with those losing propositions at the end of the day that they said, which is huge, I would say. You have the ability to be reflective of, hey, what did I learn? What did I, and you're able to give up on it too and move on to the next new thing. Like I said, a lot of folks can't do that. And it might be because of this moon aspect here. You get those hyper-focused leadership types, they might not be willing to give up on losing prospects. Now, the planet Neptune, when coupled with the moon, is said to lend to high romanticism and an idealistic nature. But warnings of not getting carried away or misdirected is mentioned with such things. Much like some other highly impressionable days, as it turns out. And I'm assuming you may be led astray depending upon the circumstances. And they mentioned a little bit of that with the spiritual groups there. That said, the Neptune days, a lot of those folks are said to have their head up in the clouds, be concerned with these higher causes, the planet that rules illusions, visions, and dreams there. So people get up there, get their feet off the ground, if you like, versus a lot of the other planets that are a lot more earthy or grounded. So this romanticism aspect of it, whether it be within personal relationships or as an ideal, I would say it seems to apply to you pretty heavily there, especially if you were dedicated to, say, being consumed with an individual or a cause at large. So in any event, that's what I'd say about your numbers and your planets. Hopefully you took something of interest from it. Maybe it spoke to you one way or another. But that said, let's move on to your tarot. That's right, one of the more eclectic of the New Age metaphysical ideologies. But hey, it's here in the book. We don't have to take it home with us and start dealing out the cards. We can just find out what it says and leave it here. And a lot of times we can make connections with the breakdown. So let's see what it has to say here. Second card of the major arcana is the Priestess. She's shown seated on her throne, calm and impenetrable. And she is a spiritual woman who reveals hidden forces and secrets and empowering those of us who heed her with that knowledge. Favorable qualities of this card are silence, intuition, reserve, and discretion. But negative traits are secretiveness, mistrust, and inertia. All right. This was a boilerplate copy-paste job for the tarot. Often is the case, but sometimes they'll individualize it for folks. That said, no big deal. Let's see what I had to say about it. See if it lines up or not. The Priestess, the spiritual woman who's represented, or she represents revealing hidden forces and secrets and empowers those who heed her with that knowledge. On its face, this is a rather hard card to line up with the breakdown for me. To say, what knowledge are you lending to people from experience? If you're able to give to others knowledge that comes from being loyally committed to something, I don't know if that's something that you can necessarily give to other people. It's kind of like you're almost living, you're deriving experiences from something else. And I'm just kind of hard for me to wrap my head around how you would be lending people knowledge from that or valuable knowledge from that. Again, if we're taking things at face value from the breakdown. Let's see, but the higher cause people, I suppose they could give a solid assessment of their lives, all right, providing that they're the people you've been, there's people you've been watching. You can give them a solid assessment of their lives. So I suppose in that respect, you could give them some things, like an outside view, because you've been watching them all this time. I don't know, but that's kind of what I derived from it. But I would say that these cards, they also represent an opportunity to take an example and maybe change your life in a certain respect. And in no small part, this particular period has presented a few of those. To say the card represents an opportunity for you to evolve in a certain way. Like, this is what you should be doing if you want to get over your weaknesses, if you like. And so, looked at from that respect, I could say that's pretty interesting. Maybe it falls in line with that. Usually, however, the book will usually mention if that is what the case happens to be. But here they didn't mention as much. So, might be an interesting idea to look at it from that respect, especially if you're someone who's obsessed with someone else, I would say. You got that undying loyalty for someone else or a cause. What else do I have to say here? I suppose you could give people a solid assessment of their lives, like I said, providing they're the people you've been watching. But it's such a hyper-focused, specific dynamic that the breakdown concerned also. So in those respects, it's sometimes hard to also make the card line up in that way. I would say the positives of reserve and discretion may be ideal if you are maintaining somebody's confidence. But the negatives of inertia in your own life, if it's derived from worshiping others or a cause, are very real. Okay, to say their inertia is like somebody plants because they don't have something pushing them forward, pushing them out. Like, what's your drive if you're just worshiping somebody else or some other cause? All right. I say you got to turn that dynamic inwards on yourself, perhaps. Do a little bit of self-worship, self-analysis, self-reflection, and then start getting out there and having your own experiences, if you like. So then you can bestow that knowledge on other people. What else do I have here? So yeah, turn that on yourself at some point, at which point you can then bestow that knowledge gained from those value-rich experiences. All right? I would say you can make it about other folks, but hey, where's your humanity? We mentioned that too. Where's, you chance losing your own humanity if you focus so much on someone else or some other cause, I would say. In any event, that's what I had to say about your tarot. So whether it speaks to you based on just this mistrust, inertia, or secretiveness as a negative, or silence, intuition, reserve, and discretion as a positive, you know what? It could also stand as an example of something to do or to try out or to try to live up to improve your life. So, like I said, it was a hard sell on this one today. I had a hard time making things line up. Isn't always the case, but sometimes is. But it might just be I didn't have enough insight into as much. But that said, that's been your tarot. So let's move on to your health. All right. Those born on March 2 must beware of living in overly fanciful life. All sorts of psychological problems can arise if they get out of touch with practical concerns of the world. Structuring their lives and taking part in regular social as well as physical activities will help to ground them. All exercise of team nature, like competitive sports, it says in parentheticals, or of a social nature, like workouts in a gym, are strongly recommended. As far as diet is concerned, March 2 people do well to eat earthy foods, which may not be their favorites at all, it says in parentheticals, such as grains, root vegetables, hearty soups, and stews. Alcohol should be viewed with caution, and all sorts of sensual activities with loved ones are recommended, as well as regular sexual expression. All right. This was a pretty rich health entry today. Very interesting. All right, let's dive into what I had to say here. Let's see. They said beware of living an overly fanciful life. Sorry, I'm having trouble reading one of the words. It's interesting here because I didn't pick up on this particular dynamic existing within the breakdown. But psychological issues, I could have assumed if the breakdown applies. Expanding socially makes sense if you're isolated in your focus. No quality was mentioned for your exercise. Sometimes they'll say vigorous or light to moderate. They didn't recommend that, but they did drill down on what sorts of things you should do. Very interesting. And they provided you two different qualities for as much in those respects, social as well as team. Team nature or social nature. That's an anomaly. They don't do that very often, if at all. But they also, what they did do here, which is a change in tradition for the period, is recommend specific foods. Okay, they haven't been doing that. They've been recommended by and large that people kind of start cultivating their culinary side, or they just don't mention foods at all. So here you got earthy foods for a grounding recommendation. And the way I read it, it seemed rather comical to me how they mentioned it, but maybe not for a reason that you realize, and that's because the Neptune thing. You got their head up in the clouds, and so you need something to ground you. Oh, the other comical aspect was in the parentheticals. They said you might not like them at all. All right, this seldom comes up, if ever. So it's something very novel to think about. The things that they recommend, people probably don't like because they're usually contrary to the energy that the reading's trying to ostensibly get you to fight or to combat. That said, the sensual activities, that's been a common through line since Aquarius, I would say. But regular sexual expression, that doesn't often come up. More so since Aquarius, but again, it doesn't, in the rest of the book, not really. Onesie, twosie type things, not even per month, per period, maybe. That said, I would maybe lend some credence to as much. Having said that, that's been your health, so let's move on to some advice. All right, your advice here. Ground yourself in the activities of everyday life and let your mind roam, but also try to be realistic about what you wish to accomplish. Don't neglect your own needs and developments, and phasing out the ego might not be the proper direction for you. All right. They gave you quite a bit of advice here today. Sometimes it's a line or two. You got 3, so there you go. You got quite a bit. Now, what did I have to say about what they had to say? Okay. Ground yourself with everyday life and let your mind roam, but be realistic with what you want to accomplish, they said. I would say it's common Neptune advice insofar as they're said to have their head up in the clouds, like I mentioned, with a concern for higher ideals, romanticism, if you like. But I'm hard-pressed to make direct associations with what's said in the breakdown, outside being perhaps too concerned with others, when you could focus on yourself. But it's decent advice in general. So ground yourself with everyday activities. All right, maybe take yourself outside of someone else's experience or the cause in general and focus on yourself a little bit. What else do they have to say here? Not neglecting your own needs and developments. So I'd say that dovetails nicely with that idea. Also, phasing out the ego may not work best for you. You may be one of the rare folks who needs to build up the ego. Let's see what I say. Let's say your individuality shine, I would say, okay? You're worthy of worship in your own respect. And they didn't bring this up, but I would argue that that's the case, all right? This is also advice that gets recommended several times a month, so you aren't alone, all right? Phasing out the ego. Something a lot of other folks need to do. But you probably need to cultivate it a little bit more so you can start worshiping yourself, all right? I think we've been drilling down on that quite a bit. It's also advice that gets recommended several times a month. Like I said, you aren't alone, so don't feel singled out in this respect because it can probably sound like a little bit of a knock. You need to develop your ego. But it's very hard to write to. I would have liked this examination more into your personal points to say this strength for moving on from losing prospects. Again, that one really stood out to me. It was kind of like the rug pull turn for me for this birthday breakdown today. So I would have liked if they examined a little bit more of that than, say, drilling down on this loyalty thing where you're hyper obsessed with a cause or a person. Though that is interesting, I can't imagine that's the only thing that makes up the greater part of your whole, if you like. WHOLE whole. But that having been said, that's your advice. Hopefully you took some value from it. Build up that ego, get that self-confidence moving and grooving. And what was the other thing there too? Let your mind roam, but be realistic about what you wish to accomplish. All right, keep your head down out of the clouds because of that Neptune power there, if you like. So in that respect, it was a little bit boilerplate with those regards. That said, that's been your advice, so let's move on to your meditation. That's right, your meditation. It's your birthday, you get something to use your moon powers to reflect upon. All right, here we go. God may not be so far away. Oh, I like this one for you. I really do. Once again, God may not be so far away. All right. Hey, you know what? I have a reason for saying that, and it's been something I've been mentioning quite a bit here. That said, I don't want to influence it for you one way or another, so I'm not going to put my spin on it or try to influence it for you one way or another. Your meditation, your birthday, it's going to help you however you decide to or reflect upon it. So, but I like this one for you for sure. That said, that's been your meditation. Let's move on to your strengths and your weaknesses. That's right. Let's hold up the objective mirror and see where we got the girth and where we're otherwise a little more atrophied within the metaphor. All right, your strengths. You're loyal, you're imaginative, and you're perseverant. All right. I like that. Persevering, you must be because you're able to keep moving on, keep moving and grooving. All right. Very interesting. But your weaknesses, let's flip the side of that mirror, or let's take the objective mirror rather and flip it to the side that blows up your face and shows off things you might be otherwise a little more superficially insecure about. That's right. Your weaknesses. Here we go. Out of touch, inflexible, and obsessive. Oh, I think we picked up on obsessive, maybe out of touch too a little bit. But inflexible, I don't know. I didn't really get that one so much. Maybe just because you're not willing to shift too much, and when you are in the groove there, if you like. That said, a lot of times I like to say our weaknesses can also be strengths, but I've been having a bit of a hard time making my case like the past week or so. That said, a lot of times I've seen these strengths and weaknesses trade back and forth just depending upon the person and the individual, the day. There was a day like 2 months back where impulsive popped up as a positive or a strength, if you like, and then the next day it was a weakness. So it's like, where's the disconnect? And I think it just depends on the individual, and even when it comes down to the individual, the situation as well. All right, we have to have the mind to know when to use such things. That said, I often like to say our strengths are going to help us overcome our weaknesses. You're loyal, imaginative, and perseverance. Well, you know what? If you're loyal, you're going to stay committed to something. Same with being perseverant, all right? You've got this objective out in front of you. You're going to go after it. Damn the torpedoes, right? Imaginative, you're also going to cook up ways to approach solving those problems, all right? But your weaknesses, says out of touch, inflexible, obsessive. How can those be strengths? Well, I don't know about out of touch so much. That might make you a little bit of an anomaly, though. There'll be people who are interested in you because you're not quite understanding what's going on around you. Kind of a fish out of water story. Those make for some of the best movies. That said, it has to be measured. If it's too much, people are apt to just not lend you any credence at all. Just think you're out to lunch, right? So it could be a strength in those regards, all right? You just have to be you can't be totally aloof. You can't be totally outside the given paradigm or the zeitgeist, if you like. Inflexible, hey, you know what? I think I get what they're saying here is you don't give any kind of ground to just about, you're just too stubborn, all right? You won't be moving on, giving any kind of ground for folks. Hey, we got to be able to give a little bit of ground, all right? But that said, sometimes you got to remain inflexible, all right? I often like to bring up the boardroom. Maybe you're in the middle of a contract negotiation and somebody's just being real persistent about, you know what, we're not going to flex either. And so take it or leave it. So they leave. Hey, I can't believe you let them get out of here. Well, you know what? If they want to come back, they'll come back, but we're not going to flex on this. And then, you know what? Maybe they come back. Oh, you know what? You remained inflexible and it was a reasonable deal. We're going to sign with you, all right? And if you had been flexible, you might have lost out on a bunch of money. I don't know if that's the best example. Not a lot of people are probably doing contracts, but that's just an example for you. Obsessive. I don't know. I think, again, you could be obsessive in a bad way. But you know what? If you've got some project you need to get into, hey, you know what? If we're obsessive about it, we can get it done, all right? Again, it's something you got to be balanced about. So, again, I think our weaknesses can be strengths. I did another day where I'm not making the best case for myself, but I think you get the idea. But I also like to argue, all right, don't get rid of your weaknesses altogether because they're part of who we are, all right? So we don't want to trade it all in, okay? That having been said, that's been your strengths and your weaknesses. So let's move on. to those born on this day. Not the best transition. Let's move on to those born on this day. And when we get into those born on this day, something I like to do is examine it from the perspective of figuring out our passions. Because too often I get out in the world and meet individuals who, I don't know, they don't necessarily like what they do. I ask them if, what they do and if they like it, and they don't, all right? So, I think the fatal flaw in it is that they got right out of school, right into a job they don't necessarily like. It's just something to make ends meet. And so they just started doing that because they got to get they got to pay the bills at the end of the month, right? But then at the end of the day, they don't have time to really put any time in or energy to put time in to figure out what they like to do, let alone what their passion is. So they just rally for the next day of work, and then the vicious cycle continues, right? Maybe over the long run, you start climbing the corporate ladder and things get easier and more money starts getting in your account. But again, I think at the end of the day, it's lacking something. There's nothing that you're going after that gives you any personal kind of fulfillment, like a passion. Now, for today, I don't know. Today, there might have been a little bit of a case that you know what your passion is and you're going after it. It just might not be the best focused on thing. That said, maybe you don't have it. Maybe you need to figure out a new passion in this respect. So if that's the case, that's what I like to do with this particular part of the reading, is try to use it as an example to start drumming up some kind of inspiration for going after our passions. All right, my words are escaping me today, so let's use it for that. All right, let's see if we can't get some inspiration for our own passions. All right, we start off with Mikhail Gorbachev, the last Soviet president and a Nobel Peace Prize winner for the word for restructuring in Russian, I can't say it. Also for openness, it says, and was an institutor and a political philosopher and a writer and deposed, it says. So he had some kind of philosophy. One is called glasnost and the other perestoikia. Again, not my best case for trying to sound that out, but they meant restructuring and openness. And like I said, political philosopher who was deposed. Moving on, we have Sam Houston, a U.S. general and the first president of the Texas Republic. We also have Theodore Seuss Gazelle. I know it's pronounced like Swice or something like that, but Dr. Seuss, children's author and artist, and responsible for The Cat in the Hat. We also have Kurt Weill, a German music drama composer, and wrote the Three-Penny Opera with Brecht. And I think, I was actually in an opera that they wrote, Kurt Weill. The Street Scene was the name of that one. Pretty interesting. We also have Lou Reed, the singer, guitarist, songwriter, and a producer. We also have Tom Wolfe, the journalist and the novelist for The Bonfire of the Vanities. And also wrote, Pushing the Envelope with the... The Right Stuff, that's what it was. And I got this guy mixed up with another Wolfe, Thomas Wolfe, I believe. So here's his birthday today, March 2nd for Tom. Okay, all right, now it's moving on. We got John Irving, the novelist of The World According to Garp. We also have Martin Ritt, theater, TV, film director of Sounder and Norma Ray. Max Lincoln Schuster, a publisher, editor, and founder of Simon & Schuster. We also have John Bon Jovi, the rock singer and songwriter. Naomi Jones, the New Zealand adventurer, and sailed solo around the world. We also have Peter Straub, a horror fiction writer and responsible for Floating Dragon. We also have Juvenal, a Roman poet and satirist. We also have Bedřich Smetana, a Czech 19th century national composer. Jennifer Jones, a film actress. Desi Arnaz, the Cuban-American band leader, TV comic actor, and producer of I Love Lucy. If you didn't know, we also have Eddie Lockjaw Davis, Lockjaw there, jazz tenor saxophonist, and those guys always get the cool names. We also have Orrin Keepnews, a jazz record producer and co-founder of Riverside and Milestone, and director of Fantasy and Prestige labels. We also have Anne Vodling, a Dutch politician and European parliamentarian, and Slava Zaitev, I guess. Zaitezev, perhaps. All right, a Russian fashion designer. This one got me. Z-A-I with the two dots, T-S-E-V. Zayatazev. All right, maybe. That said, today got me with the names. Writ large today was a difficult read for me. So let's butcher things on my side. It's not done in malice. It's just hooked on phonics. Doesn't work for me the best when it comes to pronouncing names and words, if you like, or getting through the birthday readings in general. That said, that essentially rounds out your birthday reading. I know it's a big ask, tall order to try to take inspiration from other people's accomplishments to stir up the fires of our own passions, but hopefully we can do just that with as much. And if we can't, well, then maybe me just putting the bug in your ear about it can help you stir those fires. Because if there's anything I can wish for you on your birthday, it's that you're chasing after a passion, all right? Not ostensibly just getting your fulfillment from somebody else's accomplishments. If you happen to be the stalker that they made you out to be, I'm hoping that's not the case, but who's to say? Or just, chasing after a cause, fulfilling the cause, or fulfilling things that go after the cause. All right, I would say turn that in on yourself. All right, make it about yourself to some extent. Make you your passion. Worship yourself. Build up that ego, like they said. I can get behind all of that 100%. So in any event, I think you get the idea. Start stirring up the fires to find something you get personal fulfillment from. All right. That said, like I said, that essentially rounds out your birthday, except to say your season is winter, your sign is Pisces, of the Pisces I period specifically, like we mentioned at the top, and your quality and element is mutable water. And this has been March 2nd, the day of Undying Loyalty. The enigmatic birthday read is what it should have been in my case. That said, this has been The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gary Goldschneider and you Stelfers. I have an affiliate link for this book down in the description if you're interested in picking yourself up a copy, or a coffee if you like. That said, this thing makes an excellent coffee table book. There we go. That's why I mixed it up. So, you know what? Get yourself a copy if you want to, I don't know, maybe crack the ice with any kind of parties you might hold. It makes a great weapon for that particular respect. Weapon. It's a great tool in that respect. I'm all over the place today, like I said. So any event, not together all too important with the book there. If you're interested in supporting the channel or picking up a copy, use the link, save the hassle, have to type it into the browser. That's all I'm trying to say. But that's what is important around these here parts, like I mentioned at the top. Wishing you a happy birthday, all right? So if you took nothing else from this whole thing, hey, I hope you understand. I just wanted to wish you a happy birthday. That said, for everybody else who joined us randomly, hey, you know what? I hope you took something of value from as much learning about somebody else's birthday. A lot of times we can just take things of value from hearing about other things people may be drawn to, or, hey, you know what? That stands as an example, something I can improve upon. For instance, all right, I learn no uncertain amount of things about myself from these things. So that said, join us for your birthday read. Maybe you'll find out a little bit more about yourself specifically. All right, but for everybody else, birthday boys and girls, I just want to say thank you for the pleasure of your time. It's been a privilege to share your birthday with you. I left you a little personal message down below the affiliate link for the birthday book, so give that a look if you're interested. That having been said, this has been Secret Language of Birthdays. So once again, I just want to say happy birthday, all right? Take care of yourselves and build up that ego if you can, all right? Start focusing on worshiping yourself. All right, take care of yourselves and happy birthday.